Let's throw out the idea that a market is just a physical place you go to. Sure, thousands of years ago, the Latin word mercatus basically meant a spot where folks gathered to trade merchandise. But in today's hyper-connected world, that definition is way too small. We've got to look at a market as this incredible, multi-layered matrix. It's an invisible architecture governing literally everything around us, from the food on our tables to the exact device you're using right now. So in this explainer, we're going to completely deconstruct that architecture.
To get us through this, here's our game plan. First, we go beyond just a place. Second, we look at area and time. Third, volume and importance. Fourth, the nature and regulation of things. And finally, the competitive arena.
All right, take a look at this. This is the complete classification tree directly from our source text. It maps out all 7 market classifications we're going to tackle, breaking things down by area, time, volume, importance, nature, regulation, and competition. It's like a giant puzzle, and we're going to zoom in and piece it together to see how goods actually move around the planet.
Let's kick things off with our first dimensions, area and time, the canvas of commerce.
Geographically speaking, markets scale up through 3 distinct tiers. You've got your local market, where things are traded strictly within a specific region, your neighborhood bakery or local mechanic. Zoom out and you hit the national market, where goods move entirely within one country's borders. And then we scale all the way up to the international market. We're talking massive cargo flights and global shipping networks, hauling commodities across oceans to entirely different continents.
But hey, time is just as crucial as physical space. Markets stretched across this whole chronological timeline. On the ultra-short end, you have the very short period market. These literally exist for a few hours, maybe a day. Think highly perishable stuff like fresh veggies or milk. Slide over to the middle and you got the short period market. This covers your weekly, seasonal fairs or festival markets selling semi-durable goods. Then, way over on the right, we have the long period market. This is for heavy, durable, and non-perishable stuff, like cars or home appliances, where the market dynamic just steadily hums along for years.
Next up on our matrix, volume and importance, the flow of goods.
When you categorize by the sheer volume of a transaction, you get a massive contrast. On one hand, you have the wholesale market. Picture those giant, cavernous warehouses loading huge bulk crates onto trucks at rock-bottom rates. This is bulk buying and selling, usually between producers and distributors. On the flip side, the retail market. That's the storefront level we're all used to, where those massive pallets are broken down and handed as single items directly to a family.
So the key takeaway here is this economic hierarchy of importance. Everything kicks off in the primary market, right? This is raw agricultural and forest stuff, grains, fruits, straight out of the dirt. Those raw materials then flow right into the secondary market, becoming semi-processed goods. Think of raw cotton being spun into yarn, or raw earth refined into iron ore at an industrial mill. Ultimately, it all lands in the terminal market, where that finished, polished product is sold to the ultimate consumer.
Moving right along to our third layer, rules and goods, what we trade and how.
If we split markets by the actual nature of what's being traded, there's a huge divide. Over here, the commodity market. Highly tangible, it's consumer goods and industrial produce. But over there, the capital market. You absolutely cannot put this in a shopping cart. This is the financial arena for long-term borrowing and lending by big business enterprises, dealing in financial assets that have long or even indefinite maturity periods.
And of course, you've got to consider the rules of the game. We have regulated markets. These are highly structured beasts like stock or commodity exchanges, driven by strict statutory provisions from a government. Contrast that completely with the unregulated or free market. Picture an independent street bazaar operating purely on the raw forces of free demand and supply. No overriding regulations dictating every single move.
Finally, we reach the deepest layer of our matrix, the competitive arena. Who holds the power?
In economic theory, we always start with this idea of a perfect market. Just imagine a massive crowd of identical vendors selling the exact same homogeneous product. Because there are so many buyers and sellers, and because absolutely everyone has perfect market knowledge, no single person can skew the price. So, one single prevailing price dictates the whole thing. It's perfectly balanced.
But let's be real, the actual world is almost never perfectly balanced. The reality shifts into what we call imperfect markets. This happens when the balance of power breaks down. Maybe there's a lack of perfect knowledge, a weird maladjustment in demand, or just specific single actors rising up to distort the whole system. The source text breaks these imperfect setups down into 4 distinct chambers. The most infamous of these is, for sure, the monopoly.
Here, a single producer or seller holds literally all the cards. There are zero close substitutes for their product, so they completely control the market supply. And since they control the supply, they have the ultimate power to fix the price for everyone else. No way around them. Step just slightly back from that total domination, and you hit a duopoly. This is a scenario where exactly two dominant sellers are running the show. Together, they basically enjoy a shared monopoly over homogeneous or maybe slightly differentiated products. The power is split, yeah, but it's still incredibly concentrated right at the top.
Expand that circle just a tiny bit further, and we arrive at an oligopoly. This structure features a small, highly exclusive handful of elite firms. They are competing, sure, but their small numbers mean they still maintain massive structural control over buyers, dictating the terms for uniform or differentiated products.
And that brings us to this fascinating flip of the script. We're so used to sellers holding the power, right? Well, enter the monopsony. This is a super unique situation where you might have plenty of sellers, but only a single, lone individual buyer. Because that one buyer is the literal only source of demand, they hold all the leverage. They can completely manipulate that entire market of sellers.
We've unpacked a ton of invisible structures today, peeling back layers from geography all the way down to brutal competition. So to wrap up this explainer, I want you to look really closely at the device you're watching this on right now. Think about the components inside it, the store you bought it from, the company that built it. Based on area, time, volume, and competition, which of these complex, hidden market layers did you just participate in to get that device into your hands? The matrix is everywhere. You just have to know how to look for it.